Hello, and welcome to Frisky Talk 10 with Ryan Sullivan. Busy running Triplefire, both the label and the radio show, working as an audio engineer, DJing, creating new events, and with a lot of new stuff on the horizon, I was really happy to get a chance to catch up with Ryan. I love this wide-ranging talk where he gives production advice, describes the early days of trying to make a progressive scene in South Africa, what he's learned about entertaining a crowd no matter what style you're playing, and why it is he loves Shakers so much. With an inspirational mindset and a deep perspective on audio and the music, it was so great to get a chance to hear all that he has to share. Thank you so much, Ryan, for this great conversation. I hope you all enjoy Frisky Talk 10 with Ryan Sullivan.
Hello.
How are you?
Cool, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yay. So happy to catch up with you.
Yeah, finally. Sorry, the last few weeks were a bit crazy.
Yeah, no worries. What's been going on? It looks busy. I mean, you seem like you're always hustling, but...
Yeah, that's exactly the right word to use. It's hustling all the time.
What were you busy with?
Yeah, I've had a couple gigs on the go and just general life. Running around, running the studio business and the record label and making sure there's a radio show in time for Frisky every month, and in between all of that, the weekends somehow just roll on over.
Yeah, no doubt. How's like the beginning of the year been for you? It really, it seems exciting.
It has been very exciting. It's been crazy busy, in a very, very good way. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. The year's really just got off at a crazy pace, which really excites me because it makes me feel like the rest of the year has some plans and goals that are all already in action right from the first day of the year, really.
I wanted to talk about your videos, which I love. So tell me how this idea came about to make these videos.
It's been something I've wanted to do for ages. So for a good few years, I've had tons and tons of ideas and thought, I've just got all these cool little ideas that I think would be fun, quirky ways to kind of show people that it's not so difficult to make music, and you can make music out of anything, as well as some very cool gear that I really love that I want to show people, And I've kind of had 1,000,001 excuses, I guess, along the way, to not get them done. And obviously that's just like the nature of creativity is like, I don't know if you've ever read, there's a book by, I think the author's name, I hardly read, but the author's name, I think, was Steven Pressfield. And it was a book called The War of Art. And he basically just talks about how, I can't remember the word that he uses, but basically when it comes to creativity, that, we kind of put blocks in front of ourselves without even realizing it. And yeah, from a video point of view, I was doing that to myself for ages and ages. Oh, he calls it resistance. That's it. And yeah, I just got to a point in December, a couple of months ago where I was like, what's that, a month ago? And I was just like, no, man, no more excuses, make a plan. So I just started doing them, and it's been fun, like learning a new skill, how to film. Like I've never owned a camera in my life other than obviously a cell phone or mobile phone. So to learn a new tool, learn how to edit, and it's been fun. Yeah, it's a cool little mission.
so cool. I watched the record one, and I love how you just like found that vinyl in the road. Like what a what a cool bit of like how does that make you feel like you're doing the right thing? You're like, yeah.
Totally. So that particular idea to make a record from a record it's honestly been something that I think might have even been the very first idea I ever had, that I was like, this would be cool to do a video of. Go like source a record, and like I even said in the video how I was thinking of going through my record collection.
Yeah, and like, how do I sacrifice? Yeah.
And then I was literally, so it still blows my mind that it was the day I decided, right, no more barriers in front of me, just go buy a camera and commit to this thing. And on that day, I had the camera in my car boot, so I had to pull my cell phone out in the end to start that whole video anyways. But I couldn't let the opportunity slip by. The record was literally lying in the road. It totally blew my mind.
That's awesome. So awesome. Like,
Yeah.
that's such a perfect, like, okay, you're doing the right thing. Although watching you destroy it and like break it, I got nervous like watching you trying to break it.
I was totally shaking because there's a part of you that just doesn't want it to break. You know what I mean? So funny.
But the track's really sweet too. I love what you're able to like come up with these sounds, and it's really cool to see the like original, like just starting with a sound and like just having like one point to start off with if you're like feeling not creative.
Yeah.
And plus
for sure.
Yeah.
That's a big part of creating, obviously in my world, music more than most things that I work on. And it's generally about, for me at least, it's about limiting yourself. So like I have a whole I guess a lot of people, when they start, when people try to get into electronic music production, people like to get blasted with as many software instruments as possible and sample packs coming out of their ears. And the problem there is that you've just got too many things to select from, so you don't really know what direction to go into. So sometimes, well, not even sometimes, all the time for me, I find if I limit myself to a few certain things that I know very well, I end up sparking my creativity way more, and way faster. And that's what that kind of a project is for me. It's about picking up an object and beating it into sound, you know what I mean, and see what you can get out of it.
So how did you get started producing? Because it seems like just something that you've been doing forever. You just seem like such a natural in the studio.
It's been a very, very long time, and the studio is the place that I earn my living. So like I DJ a lot, but my living comes from studio work. So from a mixing and mastering point of view, from an education point of view, I've been teaching for many years. So like the studio is absolutely my comfort zone. It's like my little meditation station of note. But the way I got into it was from when I was really young, still like early 90s. I was really, really interested in how electronic music was made, and I still, for years later, freaked out. Like I would buy a record and put the needle on, and I couldn't understand how this big piece of plastic was delivering emotional content to me. I couldn't understand it. And that led to me DJing before I learned how to make music. But that's purely because the DJing side of the world was more accessible. And then, it was a progression to find the tools and learn those tools and so on, to be able to get into the point where I was producing. Because like when I was young, I never had a computer or anything. I think I had my first computer when I was like of my own when I was about 20. So the challenge was really finding the tools, and then once having the tools, learning how to use them. And in all those years, I was DJing, which I think was a massive help, because it meant when I finally got to learn how to make music, I knew exactly what I wanted to put down, you know.
I mean, it was probably harder to even like find studio stuff to work with, and like knowing what kind of software and knowing, the gear and stuff.
Exactly. And I mean, I started off like most young people I meet today and people that I teach to and so on. I started in a very similar situation. You end up with a computer and somebody hands you a whole bunch of honestly pirated software. So you just end up loaded with stuff and you don't know how any of it works and you don't know where to start. But over time, you like chisel through it all and you figure out what works for you and what doesn't work. And once I figured out what did work for me, I went out and I purchased those things. And now those are the tools that I know intimately and I know really, really well. And so instead of learning every single compressor or every single EQ out there in the world, it's unnecessary to. There's a few that I really love and I know what I want out of them, so I've bought them and that's all that I use. And those limitations help keep my creativity on track, as opposed to getting lost in the technical side of learning a billion tools that all do the same thing. I stick to a handful of things so that I can focus on putting my idea down, you know?
Oh, I love it. That's like such good advice for life too. If you have too many things going on, like you know, focus on what you're good at and what you know and like make it better.
Totally.
Love it.
Sure.
So what was the first track you put out?
The first like official release, it was an EP on, actually it was a single, it wasn't an EP. It was called Mandy's Song. And I'm still to this day like a little embarrassed by it. I think the song was strong, but I was still young and still learning, and the vast majority of the drums were loops from, you know, BT, Brian Tronso.
Yeah.
So at that time he was making like this amazing progressive house / break beat, incredible music, and he released this sample pack that was really, really amazing. But like my drums were completely ripped from that sample pack. They weren't. I listened back to that record and I'm like, the musical side of it, I'm still happy with and proud of. I just wish I could have like gone back in time and changed those drums to my like.
You could just do like a new remix of it.
I could, but I also believe in just moving forward and focusing on new content and like I don't want to erase the history of it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the story to tell right now. You know, it's part of my story. It's cool.
Have you just lived in Cape Town forever?
No. I'm originally from Johannesburg.
Oh, okay.
And I moved to Cape Town at the end of 2009. I've been in Cape Town for about, like 8 years or so now. My maths is terrible. I'm not even going to pretend.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah, that's right. It's hard, like anything past the 2000s. Like I start to get lost of how long
For sure.
time has been.
Exactly.
Sweet. So you grew up like in the scene, like the DJ scene of Johannesburg then?
Yes.
Yeah. Sweet. How was that? Like, what was that like?
It was awesome yet challenging because I was dead set on the sound of music that I still I consider progressive house as the name,
Sure.
as the genre.
Yeah.
Pure
Yeah, for sure.
name to be stamped on it, unfortunately. And that sound was just not received at all in this whole country, in the whole of South Africa. So there was a small group of us that were all producers and all DJs, and maybe 10 of us at most. And we were scattered, around the country, and we were basically our tiny little core group of people who loved this music we were making and playing, and very few other people gave a shit about it.
Yeah.
It was challenging in that respect because we were really pushing this thing as hard as we possibly could, and we'd do like national tours across the country, and people would come, but like, you know, a DJ would come on after one of us and put on like I don't know, like a big funky house tune, as it was a genre we called it that. I don't know what the rest of the world called it. Like a junior Kid Cream had this huge hit. I can't even remember what it was called, but like someone would come on and put on like a big fat house record, and everyone would go ballistic. And we were like, "Come on, man. We just worked 6 hours to get this dance floor in the zone, and what?" Then you just wake everyone up screaming, and so it was challenging and frustrating from that point of view. But also, that was also my own fault and all of our fault. We stuck to our guns, and I don't regret that at all, because I still stick to my guns to this day. That sound, or at least an evolution of that sound, is still what I'm absolutely passionate about to this day.
Yeah, I think it's way better because then you're being authentic. Like if you're just playing music that, just for the crowd.
Completely. And then what that's led to is all these years later. So I started DJing in 1997, and so all these years later, and it's taught me how to deliver music that people have never heard and might never ever hear again in their lives. But it's taught me how to deliver it in a way that they can accept it and enjoy it right here, right now. And I don't know if that's because people have become a bit more open-minded, or if it's because I've learned a skill. I like to think it's a bit of both, but whatever it is, it's working, and I'm very happy.
I love it. That's awesome. Would you be able to like describe, how you figured out how to do that, how to give people, get them into it?
I don't know if I know how to put that into words. Really, it's just understanding from a DJ perspective how to deliver music in a way that's going to get people going. And even playing commercial music, when you first learn to DJ, so like back then when I was young, I would DJ at a 40th birthday party, and then an 18th birthday party, and then a wedding, and then like a student party at a university. So like I've played all sorts of cheesy music over the years too, when I have to, and all of those experiences taught me how to deal with entertaining people, how to deal with a crowd of people. And I really don't know how to put it into words, but it's all of those experiences that have helped me to deliver unknown music to people in a way that somehow entertains them. And that's why I say I can't put that all on me. I like to think that people have also become way more open-minded musically these days, where back then, whatever the radio was feeding you is what you learned to love, for at least for the majority of people who weren't crate digging for music, And today there's just so much music out there, and people don't rely on the radio. There's thousands and thousands of sources to go search and find new music. So I think for all those reasons, people are way more open-minded too. And that, coupled with the skill of being able to entertain a crowd, and I don't mean by waving my hands in the air or anything crazy. I mean like on a musical level, being able to deliver the music in an entertaining way. I think those two kind of forces combined have led to the point where I'm at today, where I can get away with playing music that I'd highly doubt people, if they've only seen me once, they'll probably never hear those songs ever again, which is cool.
It's really cool. I love that. It is such a huge part of the DJ to do that, and I think it's awesome that you said you've been doing it for so long, and it's now become where you feel very confident in your ability to do that. And I think that's such an important thing of your role. What's one of your favorite moments then? What's one of the times when you felt like you really got the crowd in?
Oh wow, I can't even think of any one particular. Yeah. I can't say any one particular moment in time, but I can say in general, my happiest, best moments where I really find myself locked in the groove is when I find the crowd locked in the groove. And that's when people are kind of silent on a dance floor. So like the opposite of people wooing and screaming to a big drop. But when people's heads are just down, eyes closed, have nothing to say, and they're just dancing in like their own bubbles. That's like magic to me.
Oh, I love that. Totally. Totally. No, that's absolutely like one of the best things on the dance floor too. Just to close your eyes and you're just
Get lost
there. Yeah. That's
for
awesome.
sure.
So is it like is progressive felt more there? Like you know, I know people are more open as you said, but is it still kind of a minority of the dance music in South
Definitely,
Africa?
the genre name still has a really bad kind of a bad reputation based on the fact, but I imagine this is all over the world, and it is kind of all over the world, at least wherever I've traveled, where the commercial or like the mainstream artists like David Guetta and the Swedish House Mafia guys and so on, when they put the progressive house stamp on their music, it
Yeah.
really tarnished it all. And I think that that has an impact here from in terms of the name of a genre, but on a musical level, I think, look, techno is really big, and that's everywhere, all over the world. Techno is kind of like the mainstream of the club world. I know some people are going to hate me for saying that,
No,
but is what.
I totally agree with you. So thank you for saying that.
And so the progressive house, people will dance to. Here's a perfect example: is I'll be booked to play a set at a festival or at a club, and people will call it techno, but I'm definitely not playing techno. In my mind, I'm playing progressive house. But for me, progressive house can incorporate techno and deep house and breaks and like whatever I want to put in it. That is my version of progressive house. And it doesn't mean I'm going to play 2 hours of the exact same rhythm. It's going to evolve and move and change and so on. So people on a musical level are definitely way more receptive to it. But if I say the words, I'm playing progressive house, people are like, really? You know, like they're a bit baffled by it.
So what do we call it? I feel like there's just this conundrum now of like it's not techno. Like the techno, I think of like you're saying, like it's like a certain crowd, you know, like an audience,
Yes.
certain audience. But you're like,
Yeah.
this is different genres, but it's like a certain like crowd or energy, or but we can't really call it progressive because I don't know, underground.
First, I really wish we didn't have to call it anything.
Yeah.
I wish we didn't have to name genres at all, because I've even found as an artist where there was, for a good few years, I was releasing techno, like more of a techno sound, and I was DJing more of a techno sound, and then I got boxed in as a techno artist, and I was like, but I don't call myself that, you know. So as soon as you stamp it as an artist with a genre name, and you know you kind of put yourself in a box, never mind just the musical style. So it's quite dangerous to use the words, but I've become a little bit more vocal with the term progressive house over the years, purely because it got so tarnished, the name got so tarnished by the cheesy guys, that I feel like the only way to like kind of clean it up is to stand up and say something, you know.
I love it.
But
Yeah, re-own it.
it really, when it comes to the name, it's kind of meaningless, really, you know. As long as people are smiling and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, then we're all happy.
What about Triplefire then? You're definitely doing different genres because it's more of just a representation of everything going on there, right?
Yes. As a, are you it depends if you're referring to the. Well, I guess it's both ways.
Well,
whether
like you're the brand, or yeah.
the things. So Triplefire, just to give you like some history on it, basically when I was young, I was signed to a record company in Johannesburg called Glo-Tech Africa. And that's how my first few releases went out. And that company kind of dissolved and imploded from the inside. And when that disappeared, I was releasing on a few labels in the States and in Europe. But all the other artists on that label had only been releasing on Glo-Tech Africa. So they turned to me and they were like, dude, what do we do now? And I was like, well, I guess we better start a label. So I started it, right?
Nice.
Years and years went on. And so it was purely designed as a funnel for South African electronic music, you know, and more particularly progressive house. And so years went on, and I got to a point where I felt that label was occupying more of my time than necessary, and I should just be focusing on my own career and making more music. And so I closed the label, and within about 3 months, I had started a new label, and that's Triplefire. And that's purely because I couldn't sleep without feeling like I was providing other local artists the ability to release their music. So that's where the label comes from. And so the idea with the label is it's like a home base for South African electronic music artists. It's mainly within the house oriented genres, so kind of from deep house through to techno. And each artist has their own thing. You know, if every single person on the label was making the exact same kind of music that I was or that I am, then it's kind of pointless, you know? So I feel like I can be the progressive house voice of the label, and another artist like Second Nature can be the techno voice of the label. And there's another guy in Pretoria, which is our capital city of South Africa. He's called Central Beat, and he's like the minimal voice of the label. So I feel like it's healthy that everyone's got their own musical voice, instead of the label just being completely one-dimensional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think that makes it distinctive too. It's something you can always come back to for something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you just run it all yourself?
I have been for a very long time, and about midway through last year, I had some guys come on board and assist me. And from this year, from February this year, we've got a whole marketing team coming on board. So like the whole thing's been like amplified and pushed forward. It's quite scary, but it's
It's
exciting at the same
exciting.
time. Yeah.
How'd you start with the artwork? Who does that? And
So the artwork is it's a friend of mine, Clara. She's actually the wife of Matthew Lewis, who's one of the artists that I work very closely with. We're really good friends, and he releases on Triplefire quite a bit. So Clara is actually a really good artist, and I approached her and asked her if she would do sketches for us for the label, but I had to ask her to like think like a child, be super naive with your output, and like don't try to turn it into amazing fine art. I really want it to be like simple sketches, like little doodles, you know. So basically I give her the song titles, and she comes up with something, whatever comes to her mind once she's heard the song titles. She comes up with a sketch, and they've been really, really cool because they help us as a label. They've really given us, like, they've cemented us with our own identity, where in the past I'd use like photography, and I just felt like I don't know, the brand just felt like it was kind of camouflaged amongst every other brand, you know. So this way felt like a very unique way of standing out from the crowd. And yeah, Clara does some really cool stuff for us.
yeah, I love it. I love it. I agree. I think having that branding where oh, this is like if you're scanning through, I mean, you can't do that at the record store anymore, but when you're looking
Yeah.
through labels online and you see, oh, I can tell that's like a Triplefire.
And the first one that we put out with a sketch, people back home here in South Africa looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, you've just got to see the big picture, people. And like, I would explain what we're doing, and some people would pretend to understand and just kind of like nod and look at me strange. And I was like, oh man. But once we had, like, if you go visit any store that we're on, so like Beatport, for example, and you go look at the label page, or even at the website, it just, as soon as you see the whole, like a whole series of releases, the whole picture just makes sense, you know?
Totally.
So people have basically from the first release, people kind of dissed the idea without really dissing it straight up. But now people are coming to me and they're like, "Who did your artwork, man? It's really cool." So yeah, it's fun.
It was it over and overdose, it does, it goes over my side. I know for hours, I know that it was go down in your sea. Take on all of your drugs, melt them down to the ground.
What then are some of your goals? You said earlier you're like getting on your goals for this year.
Sure. There's so much stuff on the go. Some of it's difficult to talk about right now because so much of it is still in planning phase, and we're working on strategy and so on at the moment with a whole team of people. That's why it's like I don't feel right to say too much about anything at the moment. Not that there's any major thing coming. It's just like, yeah, it's weird. But basically, we are working on, we've recently started, well, for the last year, we've run a club night once a month called Corner. It's like spelled Kona. It's kind of like a play on an African word with a letter removed and so on. Anyway.
Well, no, explain that. What is that? What word and what does it mean?
So, well, the word is corner in an African, one of the African languages. There's so many languages on this side of the world. We have 11 official languages in South Africa. So corner means this place. So like, in my mind, I see it as kind of like when you're in the club, we're here right now in this place together, and nothing else matters kind of vibe, you know? So that's kind of the meaning behind it. So we do that once a month at a club called Modular in Cape Town. And now at the beginning of this year, we've started another weekly event every Sunday. So that's like a daytime thing with a beautiful view of Table Mountain in Cape Town. So it's definitely currently doing quite well through summer, and we'll see how we deal with it in winter, because it's going to be raining, of course. But I don't know, we'll figure that out when we get there. But that's pretty exciting, and that's quite new. We've just started that at the beginning of January. We're also doing Triplefire events around the country. I say that quite dangerously, because at the moment we bounce between Cape Town and Johannesburg quite a bit, and we're trying to incorporate more of the country, but also heading to Kenya later in the year. And we're also working on hosting Triplefire stages at some festivals in South Africa.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we did a stage. It was like a collaborative thing in Vietnam in November with a friend, like a crew that I work closely with here in South Africa called Hots Productions. And so they were setting up a boat stage for this festival called Quest Festival on like a lake in Vietnam. And so they invited Triplefire to come on board, excuse the pun. And yeah, so that was really cool. And that's really like kind of got the cogs in our minds spinning about how we can do more of that kind of thing and collaborate with more festivals and things. So we're busy working on a lot of that kind of stuff. And then also moving stronger into education again.
Nice.
So like for years I worked in education, teaching audio engineering and sound design and music production and so on, and music theory. and that was always at tertiary educational institutes, and I always walked away a bit bitter and a bit miffed with the education system as a whole, and for tons of reasons, and they're kind of irrelevant. It's a personal thing that I'm kind of against the system, you know. And so I've walked away from that world for quite a while, and this year I'm kind of unrolling some courses through Triplefire, or at least, you know, within the company, and that's got me excited again. I think that I've kind of buried that educational side of my passion for long enough, and I think if I do it independently, I will be able to enjoy it without feeling like the system, like I need to stand against the system, you know?
Yeah, I love that. For sure. I mean, you control the whole thing and teach the way you want to teach. And so
Totally.
and it's gonna fit in perfectly with videos and everything that you're doing. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Are you gonna go on tour at all? You have any plans?
Other than heading to Kenya later in the year, I don't know how to do Europe again this year, but I really want to. I just haven't thought about how to make it happen. Basically, the European mission every year, it's really far from the southern tip of Africa,
Yeah.
making it very expensive. And our currency is, of course, way weaker than the northern hemisphere. And so I really want to do it, but I need to be more strategic with it and not like go over for a gig. I need to go over and make a long stint of it all. And that's what I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around as to how to do that in a viable way, you know?
Do you have any places that are like goals you want to play at? Other countries or venues?
Everywhere. No,
No, like I'm sure you got some. Vietnam's pretty awesome. I don't know a lot of people who've gone to Vietnam.
yeah, Vietnam was weird. I was expecting a whole big Vietnamese crowd, and it was mostly expats from Australia, South Africa, and some Europeans and some Americans. I was completely mind blown. That caught me off guard.
That's funny. You're
But
like, I know all of you. Yeah.
yeah, that's weird. But I would love to. I've never been to South America, and so I'd love
Yeah.
to explore the whole of South America. I've never been to North America or Canada, and I'd love to see those parts. I've still never in my life experienced snow falling and packing properly. I would love to experience that. And like a big part of traveling with music for me is the cultural experience and learning about other cultures and how other people have celebrated things and resolved issues in their society and so on and so forth, you know. So like it's all those things, and for me, having never experienced snow properly is like so much of the world gets covered in snow every year. That is a major cultural thing that I mean it's not just it's a weather thing, it's a geographical thing, but I mean like there's a whole culture around how you deal with snow that I can't even understand till I experience it, you know.
Drawn to by man and understood by gods. Now's the time to be you. Be the element that surpasses this moment. That we are truthful to nothing but lie always, but fever. A fever in the afterlife. And us, a joined head, a connection of the thought. Together like Siamese twins we remain drawn to the element. Drawn to this fever in the afterlife.
I feel like as an audio nerd, if I can call you that, that you probably have some more cool theories on music. Something like, you know, how we relate to music. Obviously, you have a big, you know, percussion thing with the shakers and the like.
Yes.
Cultural.
Yeah. So that's like a small little quirk. Where that really came from is from like my sound engineering background is obviously very technical, and revolves around recording a lot. So I deal with a lot of bands through all genres of music, recording, mixing, and mastering. So like I see production processes from start to finish in tons of different genres of music. And the one thing in electronic music that kind of, I mean, this has been said by thousands of people, thousands of times, but like that whole straight groove thing, that very robotic thing, that in the early days of house was there, but it was also loosened up because people weren't recording when, like, they would have to sync their gear using where basically a studio would just be hardware synced together, and things wouldn't be 100% in sync. And then when recording to tape, there would be like kind of fluctuations in tempo, very, very subtle. And then even when a record's pressed, or when a song's pressed to a vinyl or to a record, there's still fluctuations in tempo, minuscule, but all these little bits and pieces over time through every kind of stage of the production process ends up with a resulting song that isn't super robotically tight, you know, in terms of rhythm and timing. And with computers, we work really hard to go back to that. So obviously working with bands, it's way more loose because you've got human beings playing drums, bass, guitar, and so on and so on. But it's that looseness that gives a song its groove that people latch onto and appreciate and enjoy, you know. And so that's where my whole little like fascination with the like little percussion instruments came from, is one from the recording and two from traveling. So like when I travel, I can't buy a giant instrument to travel back home with, but I can grab a little shaker or a little jaw harp, or like some small little instrument that is relevant to the country's culture that I would have just visited, you know. And so it's kind of, it's a cultural thing and a tech thing, where from a tech point of view, I want a little bit of loose feel to my music, and from a cultural point of view, it's a little slice of where I've been, and in many cases where my friends have been. So like a couple of years ago, for my 30th birthday, a whole pile of friends threw this birthday party for me, and everyone was to bring a shaker and write a message. So like that's like a memory I have that will never go away, and it kind of gets imprinted on all my music. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
Absolutely, that's super cool. What a great story. That's awesome. Is there anything you want to promote that you've got coming up, tracks or releases?
I don't know. I have nothing in particular that I would want to promote, or no particular record. But obviously Triplefire encompasses a whole bunch of things within music. It's mainly a record company and a radio show on Frisky Radio, of course. But it encompasses a bunch of other things. And so I would simply plug that, triplefiremusic.com.
Okay, yeah. How else can people find you?
I'm obviously on all the obvious social media platforms, just as Ryan Sullivan or Ryan Sullivan Music. And also Triplefire's on most of the platforms, those that I've been able to find time to manage, just as Triplefire Music. And yeah, website is ryansullivan.co.za and triplefiremusic.com.
Boom. Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep stalking your videos because they're awesome. What's coming up next?
What, in terms of video?
Yeah.
I actually have a free sample pack that I'm supposed to drop tomorrow morning, but I'm having one simple little problem, is that I can't find a good solution to host it. It sounds like such a pathetic problem to have in the year 2018. But basically, I've created a bunch of drum samples off my one synth. It's called an MS-20 made by Korg. And so I've made like a whole bunch of kicks, snares, claps, hi-hats, and so on. And like this whole drum bank, and obviously a little video around it. And I'm bursting to give that away to people. I just need a cool place to host.
Well, let me know about everything you've got coming up too. I'd love to like promote, all the Triplefire stuff and classes and everything that you guys pull together, your tours, things like that. I love to share and promote it.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll definitely do that.
Okay, good. Well,
Cool.
sweet. I'm so happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Likewise. Thank you, man. And I was super stoked to meet you last year. Are you heading back to ADE this year?
Definitely.
Awesome.
Plan on
Yeah, I'm planning on it. And so hopefully we get to catch up with the whole Frisky family again.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see what gets pulled together. It's like, he's so far away, but I can't wait.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Cool, thank you, and you too. It was awesome to chat. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
All right,
cool.
take care.
Bye. Bye.